Are you trying to main Invisible Woman, but you're kind of ass? Uh-oh, that's bad. I landed right next to Doctor Strange when he used that ult. Or maybe you're just looking for some tips to level up your gameplay, at least locally. Well, this video might just be exactly what you need. But first, check out this exclusive leaked Daredevil gameplay. Gotcha.
How to really play Invisible Woman.
Welcome to Uther.
Now begin.
Let's set some ground rules. First, I'll be referring to Invisible Woman as Sue or Sue Storm for continuity, alright? Second, I'm not some pro esports player.
Revan, start fucking talking. I'm not
Dude,
getting
there's
burned.
nothing to fucking be. There's nothing to call out.
I'm just a decent healer with the stats to back it up.
Basic settings.
There are a couple of settings that'll make your life way easier. Attack range hint, healing reticle feedback, and allied health bars on. The attack range hint should already be on, but it's really not that helpful as Sue. The allied health bars is a non-negotiable to keep tabs on everyone's health. And the healing reticle feedback can be super handy for just knowing when you're actually healing someone. Now that we've handled the basics, let's get into the juicy stuff. How to play Sue Storm like a gangster.
Healing abilities.
Sue's healing toolkit includes 3 main abilities, not counting her ultimate or her, assets. Sue's primary fire is pretty slow and you only get 10 shots. Luckily, each shot returns to you after reaching max range or hitting a surface. Each projectile heals about 40 HP per hit, that's 80 if it returns through the same target, and you should try to stay horizontally aligned with your team and focus fire toward the tank. This ensures maximum healing during point pushes. Next up is Sue's shield. It heals for about 50 HP per second while active and slows enemies passing through it by 30% for 3 seconds. It only has 300 health, so it's kind of strategic. So here's the deal. Don't use the shield to block damage. Instead, try to prioritize these targets: flying teammates or those out of range for direct healing, yourself or backline teammates in trouble, and this is the big one, the tank or whoever you are healing currently, but when you're about to reload. That reload feels like forever in a fight, so use the shield to cover for it. The third one is her invisibility passive. It heals Sue for 20 HP per second while invisible, and it's great for escaping dangerous situations. Hello, Iron Fist, Psylocke, Spider-Man, Venom, etc, etc. Outside of combat, Sue can stay invisible by default. Her double jump ability also triggers invisibility, which is a lifesaver in chaotic fights. If you're being harassed, double jump to reposition over the fight and land where no one's paying attention. Use your team as a buffer while waiting for cooldowns. In summation, stay near tanks and teammates. Always be between your team and the enemies. Keep your shield healthy and ready to deploy strategically. Use your double jumps and invisibility to stay alive and reposition effectively. Okay, everyone? Alright, you keeping up?
Offensive abilities.
Sue's got 4 offensive abilities that round out her playstyle. Let's break them down. One is her melee. It deals 30 damage compared to 20 from primary fire. If someone's in melee range and you're not healing, melee them. Trust me, it's worth it. 2 is her primary fire. Again, make sure to aim through your team for maximum impact. This kind of plays hand in hand with the healing portion that we talked about earlier. 3 is her psionic vortex. It's an AoE ability that deals 35 damage per second for 4 seconds on a 12-second cooldown. It's got a 10-meter diameter and pulls enemies towards its center and slows them down by about 50% at its core. Try to use it to apply pressure at choke points or peel for teammates. It's not insanely strong, but it applies enough pressure to get the job done. Honestly, I feel like this ability needs to be a little longer for such a long cooldown. And I also feel like it needs to be a little bit stronger at pulling people towards its center, as people can just kind of walk through it no problem. Number 4 is Force Physics. This ability deals 55 damage at an 8-second cooldown. It allows you to push or pull enemies in a bit of a cylindrical shape. It's great for grounding flying enemies or shoving tanks or DPS back into the front line. You can sort of interrupt Doctor Strange's ultimate by pushing him just far enough away. You're welcome.
Ultimate invisible boundary.
Su's ultimate is a game changer and can swing the flow of a match in an instant. It is a 20-meter AoE force field that heals 165 HP per second. It lasts 8 seconds and slows enemies passing through it by 55% and makes everyone inside invisible. Enemies can see ping markers for your team inside the field but can't target effectively. Use it to counter ultimates or stabilize fights. There's only a couple ultimates that just flat out counter this one, so be careful where you use it and don't be afraid to pop it to change the flow or get your team back on the point.
Defensive strategy.
So we've really only talked about pushing situations, and that's mainly because that's where Su shines. But let's get into some defensive situations and how to properly take advantage of her kit. Depending on how your team is set up and how everyone plays, it could prove difficult to be an effective healer on defense. I tend to play a similar game as on attack, keeping heals on the tank and primary teammates at the front, shielding between reloads and tertiary teammates, pushing enemies out of the back line and the point onto your tanks, keeping yourself positioned around the fight and outside of enemy DPS attention. All of these apply on offense as they do on defense. The difference is your teammates aren't all going to be on the fight on defense. You may have a Punisher set up with a turret. You may have a Psylocke in their backline causing havoc. You may have a Groot putting walls in places that really mess with your line of sight. All of these things and more can throw off the rhythm you're used to in offense, so you need to keep your head on a swivel in defense. Play your strengths essentially. That's all for my Invisible Woman tips. I don't usually make this type of content, like guides and tips and shit, but I've been loving this game and healing in general, so I thought I'd share my thoughts on how to play this character because I just see so many people playing her incorrectly or just using her shield to block damage all willy-nilly. It's just not that way. It's just not that way for me. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, but this is what I've found that works the best. So I hope you enjoyed it.